If there is any misery caused to any Palestinian or Israeli, this is because of Hamas. We do not do any of this deliberately. You cannot make it sound as if, yes, we take joy in starving children. These are bloodlame.
Jag är Aron Flam. Du tittar på dekonstruktiv kritik. I detta avsnitt är vi hedrade att få tala med Israels ambassadör i Sverige, Ziv Nevo Kulman, under en avgörande tidpunkt. I förrgår kväll från den här intervjuns inspelningssätt sköts 2 medarbetare vid Israels ambassad, Yaron Lishinsky och Sarah Lynn Milgram, ett ungt par på väg att förlova sig tragiskt ihjäl utanför Capitol Jewish Museum i Washington DC. Vi hade just varit på en gala till hjälp för Gazas lidande civilbefolkning. Och den här handlingen, de här morden som av israeliska och amerikanska myndigheter beskrivs som ett riktat antisemitiskt dåd, sker mot bakgrund av Israels pågående militära insatser i Gaza. Morden väcker frågor om säkerheten för israeler och judar över hela världen samt mediernas roll i att forma berättelser som kan spä på fientliga känslor. Idag kommer vi att utforska dessa komplexa frågor tillsammans med ambassadören i ett försök att förstå de större implikationerna och vägen framåt i dessa utmanande tider. Ambassadör Nevo Kulman, njut. Welcome to Deconstructive Criticism, Mr. Ambassador.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, am I speaking to you or the State of Israel?
Who do you prefer to speak to?
You, actually.
Well, you know, I'm Ziv Nevo Kulman. I am here as a person, but I represent the State of Israel. This is part of my job. I represent the State of Israel 24/7, even if you catch me in the line in the supermarket.
But it can't always have been like that, has it?
Well, I've been a diplomat for 30 years now. And of course, once you're in mission, once you are in the country, especially as ambassador, and this is my first ambassadorial role, it means a great deal of responsibility, which I take very seriously, 24/7.
Yes. So how did you decide to become a diplomat?
Oh, that's a long story. I mean, if you ask my parents, they say that they knew I would be a diplomat since I was 3, because I always knew how to kind of get myself out of trouble with my verbal skills. But when it comes to university, I studied art history, which is not exactly what you study if you're thinking of a diplomatic career. But it kind of dawned onto me when the Oslo Agreements, the Oslo Accords were signed, and I was in my last year in university. As an art historian, I thought, oh, this would be a great opportunity for Israeli diplomats to do what is really important and to promote cultural ties. So I signed up for the exams. They looked at me very strangely. What are you doing here? I did pass all the exams and I became a diplomat. And I joined the Diplomatic Academy in August 1995, so almost 30 years ago.
Okay, so now you're an art historian on a diplomatic mission during a time of war.
Not easy.
No. Thursday night or early Friday morning, 2 embassy staff were shot to death, murdered outside the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. The perpetrator, his name was Elias Rodriguez, which is not your typical Palestinian terrorist name. Can you tell me what you know of the incident?
Well, we're shocked. And the investigation is still going on, but we do know the fact that you've mentioned that 2 of our employees in our embassy in Washington were brutally murdered. And we know that the terrorist was shouting Free Palestine. And as you said, we don't know exactly his motives, but he doesn't come from a Palestinian or a Middle Eastern background. I can suspect that this has a lot to do with incitement, what's been going on in so many places, universities, the media, places where Israel is accused on a daily basis for conducting crimes against humanity. They're using words like genocide. The whole atmosphere is one of incitement, of hate. Remember that these were Israeli embassy employees, but this was an American Jewish committee event. held for young diplomats. It was held in the Capitol, the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. So it also has a clear anti-Semitic aspect to it, that the murderer was seeking Jews, was seeking people that support Israel.
Yeah, he also produced the red keffiyeh, I'm told, by reports. That is.
Apparently, they also checked his social media, and it was full of hate and calls for killing Israel and accusations that really have, I would say, a very violent aspect to them.
Yes, and this event at the Jewish Museum and the two victims, they were not what you would call right-wing Israeli extremist nationalists.
I don't think that it mattered to him if they were right-wing, left-wing, if they were... I don't even know if he knew they were Israeli or American. And by the way, one of them was Israeli, and his future wife, he was supposed to propose to her in Jerusalem next week. She was American. I don't think it mattered to him if they were, of what their political beliefs were. I don't think it mattered to them if they were Israeli or American. They were Jews, and they were automatically suspected as being supporters of Israel, supporters of everything that he doesn't stand for. And this is what happens when you have incitement going on in so many places, and you've seen it over the last few weeks. It's intensifying, and unfortunately, it ends in act of violence like the one we have seen.
Yes, I have seen quite a lot of incitement because I watch a lot of Swedish television. I don't know if you watch a lot of Swedish television.
It's part of the job.
All right. So, do you understand Swedish?
I understand more and more, and especially, during the war, my vocabulary became more related to words like gisslan or kriget, and these are things that I pick up. I can pick up the context, and you don't have to be a big specialist in the Swedish language to understand that the general ambience is not very positive.
How about words like folkmord and apartheid?
These are words. Apartheid, of course, is an international word.
Yes.
Folkmord, I'm afraid, is used very often without any judiciary substance. I mean, you use it, you banalize it. That's part of the problem.
Yes, I don't know if you've seen this, but there's a Swedish doctor. He looks quite a lot like Josef Mengele, but that's coincidental. His name is Johan von Schreeb. And he has called Gaza a death camp and compared it to Rwanda.
So, of course, I don't go into any comparisons, but when our enemies or the people who don't like us go into comparisons that are of anti-Semitic nature, they are demonizing us. They are comparing Israeli soldiers to Nazis. They are saying that what we are doing is just as bad as what the German Nazis or their collaborators have done. They are saying that we execute babies. They are using terms that are completely anti-Semitic, and they shouldn't. That shouldn't be the norm.
If you had watched SVT Morgonstudion yesterday, they had one of their Middle Eastern experts answer questions on the situation or try to describe the situation in regard to Israel's final push in Gaza. He got to speak for about 10 minutes, and first he talked about Jews controlling the United States, very strong lobby groups. They pretty much decide who the president is, and senators need them to win races, or Congress people. And the baby killings, of course, and the fact that Jews always lie. So these are just classical anti-Semitic tropes, basically. And when he goes through the situation in the Middle East, it is the Arab narrative that he presents. He doesn't present the Western. Israel, of course, he wouldn't present Israel's perspective, but not even the Western perspective. What do you make of that?
I can understand your anger and frustration. I mean, it's not only in the media. Unfortunately, you also see it in demonstrations. When the the chairman of the Jewish the Council of Jewish Communities is blamed for very similar things, for his control of politicians in this country. These are all anti-Semitic accusations. When it comes to the Swedish media, you know, we've started our conversation when you asked me about my role as a diplomat, my role as an ambassador. I give respect to journalists. They do their job, and I do mine. I don't always like the way they do their job. I don't always think that they treat Israel fairly or me fairly, or the cause in general. But they do their job. I do mine. I do it the best I can. Now, when it comes to complaining about when you see things in media that are not correct, they're not right, and sometimes even have an anti-Semitic aspect, what is the best way to react? And I think, I know, I come from a democratic country. I come from a country where, believe me, the freedom of expression and the freedom of the press is out there. And the press is never happy with any government. And the things that you read in Israeli media against the Israeli government, like, you know, it's a democracy. So I have respect for the media. I have respect for its role. And I also understand the limits to my capability. Because if I go out and attack Swedish media, they automatically look at me as if I were an ambassador from some kind of third world country or a dictatorship that doesn't understand what freedom of expression and freedom of free press means. While you, as a Swedish taxpayer, you can complain. It's your taxpayers' money.
Oh, I do.
And you can also have alternative podcast, or, I mean, this is what I say to friends, you know, supporters of Israel from the Jewish community, friends of Israel. They get outraged and they send me links like, do something, and I say, no, you do something. I mean, it's your taxpayers' money. And you can, you can also cancel your subscription if you're not happy with the way a newspaper reports Israel. You can write petitions. You can write complaint letters. This is how it works in a democracy. And of course, I'm frustrated. I do the best I can. And sometimes I have to say that we do manage to have the Swedish media maybe change its view, or at least show another side of the situation.
I understand what you're saying, but I mean, would you view a person working for Al Jazeera as a journalist?
Well, Al Jazeera has many issues, not just with Israel, because, you know, it's based in Qatar and it takes liberty to criticize the entire the regimes all over the Middle East. So we have our own issues with Al Jazeera. Again, I wouldn't go. I think it will be counterproductive. I am not going to go into checking the CV of each correspondent who works for Swedish outlets. I think it is the role of the people who consume, if it's either the taxpayers or the people who are subscribed to whatever media outlet it is. And I think that's the way it should work. And by the way,
but your government has shut down Al Jazeera in the West Bank, for instance,
because it's been openly promoting terrorism. And we are not the only government in the region that is not happy with the way Al Jazeera is working and promoting Hamas and terrorists. Absolutely.
So, I mean, then you can't really consider people working for Al Jazeera to be journalists.
I can define what a diplomat is and what is needed of a diplomat, what is needed of a journalist, and what should be or not be in the CV, or what you look for when you look for good journalism. I leave it up to you and for the people who criticize, professionally criticize the media.
Because there are people at Swedish State Radio, for instance, who have worked at Al Jazeera.
There are people from different backgrounds, by the way. It doesn't mean that if someone has a Middle Eastern background that they're automatically biased against Israel. We basically, when we do our monitoring of the way we are, just as the same if somebody has a Jewish name, you don't expect that person to be automatically a pro or against one side. So when it comes to freedom of press, I leave it up to my Swedish friends to complain or to do anything they see fit. And I stick and my embassy team, we stick to our role, and our role is to present Israel's side in the best possible way and to kind of contradict any kind of inaccuracy.
So how exactly did you cheat yourself to victory in the Eurovision Song Contest?
We did not cheat. It was a beautiful song, wasn't it?
I think it was a beautiful song. I don't watch Eurovision that much. It's just been the last 2 years, actually. But state media here and the state-subsidized media here tell me you cheated, even though EBU tells me you did not cheat.
It's always conspiracy, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the Jewish vote. It's the Jewish lobby. It's the voters were not. I mean, you come up with every possible way of conspiracy. You know, I'm a Eurovision fan, and before, I mean, when Loreen won in 23, I was very happy. I was very happy to have Eurovision coming to Sweden. I thought this is going to be a great way to celebrate. And of course, then the war broke out, and the decision to have Eurovision in Malmö. And as you know, this was all far from celebration. But for the second year in a row, Israel received 0 points. 0 points from the Swedish jury, the professional jury, and 12 points from the public. I think this is, you know, we didn't politicize Eurovision. We want to participate like any, I mean, when I say we, it is our public broadcaster, because remember that Eurovision is not a competition between countries. It is public broadcasters that are part of EBU, and Israel is part of the European Broadcasting Union. So it is the second year in a row that this is politicized against Israel. And as a result, you see outrage from the public. I think the public sees good singers, good songs. It's not easy for young, you know, Eden Golan or Yuval Rafael this year, not easy to perform in front of an arena of people booing, and still they performed brilliantly. And I think the audience looks at it and says, she's doing an amazing job in impossible circumstances. She deserves our 12 points.
Yeah, I think that's about right. May I ask you, because you've been here 5 years now?
I'm starting my 5th year. I've been here for 4 years.
Okay. And so since the war started, what is the most egregious thing you've experienced?
It's, you know, I'm a diplomat who's trained to promote bilateral relations in various aspects. Obviously, the cultural bridges that I've spoken about, but also, you know, economic, academic, tourist, scientific relations. This is what normal diplomats do under normal circumstances. And I have to say that my first 2 years here were great, exactly in that aspect, with the previous government and the current government here in Sweden, and also change of governments in Israel. These were the first 2 years. Now, what happened after October 7th is that, and this is correct not only for me, but for all of the Israel diplomats all over the world, is you only focus on the war. So the Ukrainian ambassador told me when the war started, my friend Andrei Polotniuk, he said, "Welcome to the club. We are the war ambassadors. This is the only thing that you'll be dealing with. Everybody's going to ask you, like, how are you, with a very strange, almost we feel sorry for you look. And you have to be prepared and be strong, because this is all you're going to do." And it's like taking the role of a diplomat and reducing it only to something that is related to a war. But I am a shaliach. I am, I'm here on a shlichut. I have a mission, and my mission is to represent my country. And my country is in the worst and the most difficult time it has ever been. And it's my job to present it. To represent it in the best way I can. And so I would say the most difficult thing is the fact that the role has been reduced. And of course, and we can go on talking for that, you also discover who your true friends are. And that's been also tough.
You don't have to mention them by name, but how many fingers symbolize your friends? Can you count them on one hand?
Oh, I need many hands for that.
Really?
Many hands for that, and toes, and it's that the I would say that the shock was, and I'm speaking not only behalf of Israelis. I think many people from the Jewish community felt it as well, that in certain circles, and the circles that personally I felt most comfortable in, let's say cultural circles, LGBT circles, people that I thought were my friends, I didn't really hear much from them after October 7th. I was surprised a few weeks later to see their names in petitions, all kinds of petitions in support of Palestinian children. There's nothing wrong in supporting Palestinian children. Where were you talking about Israeli children? Can't you say a word about that? I was very, very surprised, very, very, very disappointed. By the way, some of these friends just pop up on Eurovision night when Israel is successful. All of a sudden, I get messages from them. Oh, great song, great performance, great for you. It's like, oh, is this the only time of the year that you remember to say something nice to me? And I think this goes not only to me, again, as an Israeli who is a representative of the state of Israel. So you can say they're not nice to you because they don't like your government. But I think Israelis in general, worldwide, feel the same. And Israeli artists feel it. Israeli professors feel it. Scientists. And unfortunately, also many people from Jewish communities feel it. That some of their friends have been very quiet and distant, except when it comes to showing their support to the other side.
What has been the worst thing you've encountered?
I don't have like a specific, there's a lot of security around me.
Yes.
Which has increased since October 7th because there's a higher risk. We started off by talking about the horrible attack in Washington, but for the last year and a half, there's been a dramatic increase on the alerts and threats against Israeli missions and Jewish communities around the world. So there's a lot of security around me, and I don't want to, to sound, but I've been safe. I've been safe and been protected thanks to the hard work and efforts by many people, Swedish authorities and Israeli authorities. But so there's not like a personal incident that I can tell you, oh, I went there or I went that. But we've encountered some not very nice situations or comments that you get from places that you thought that were supposed to be your friends.
But the Israeli embassy has been closed and it has been attacked several times.
We were attacked 3 times. There was a grenade thrown at our backyard, which luckily didn't explode. Shots at the embassy, and that's been terrible. The embassy has been operating the whole time, but from different locations, and we do operate, and we are open, and our consular services are operating. But of course, this is part of the services that we have to give to the Israeli community here and to anyone who needs services from our from our authorities. So we have been able to operate, and we have been able to do what embassies are supposed to do in time of war, which is to generate support. So I go to the Swedish Parliament, I would say, probably once a week to meet friends or to brief them. And I've been pretty much on the media. All of these things we managed to do despite the challenges. But yes, it has not been easy, and there have been attacks. And if you pass by our embassy building, you see a lot of police around us for good reason.
Let's talk a bit about Israel's final offensive in Gaza. Because this is supposed to be the final offensive, right?
This is supposed to be more military pressure on Hamas to get the hostages back and to get them to give up power in Gaza, which is what would really make everything easier for everyone.
Yes, but it's what you're talking about is an unconditional surrender. That's what it used to be called in history books when I was a kid, at least.
This is what Hamas should, I mean, militarily, they're very close to that. Unfortunately, they get a lot of backwind from all kinds of initiatives that put the pressure on Israel.
So can you give me any sort of timetable for when this will be over?
No, it could be over tomorrow.
Yeah, if Hamas unconditionally surrenders.
If Hamas, we don't have to make it sound that dramatic. I mean,
well, I like when it sounds dramatic.
But we would like to have 58 hostages return home. And most of them, unfortunately, are not alive. They need to return the hostages, and they need to say or acknowledge what everyone understands, including the Palestinian Authority, that Hamas is not going to be part of any solution of the day after. So that if they do that, the war could end tomorrow. Do they want to drag it on and on and on for more suffering for their own people? That is very unfortunate.
I read in the Jerusalem Post this morning that your economy minister, I forgot his name.
Nir Barkat.
Nir Barkat, yes. He talks about Palestinian clans in the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, that are interested in a hush-hush way of signing on to the Abraham Accords.
Well, there are a lot of allies in the Arab world who hush-hush have relations with Israel regardless of the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords was a wonderful step because it brought it out into daylight. So there are a lot of Palestinians, there are a lot of, I wouldn't surprise you if I say there are a lot of Gulf countries that do not have open diplomatic relations with Israel. I would say that practically every Arab country in the region has some sort of relationship with Israel, whether economic or other, because most of them, they understand, the support for the Palestinian cause is very strong in the streets. It's very strong among public opinion. All of our neighbors, the countries we have a peace agreement with, like Jordan, and Jordan has a Palestinian majority. Egypt has its own issue with the radicals, with the Islamic Brotherhood, and they have to be very cautious about their public opinion. But all of the regimes, all of them there is no support for Hamas. They are no friends of Hamas. Maybe Turkey is.
Turkey is obviously a friend of both the Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, since they are hosting them at the moment.
Absolutely. Qatar is playing like a double game.
Yes.
But that's for a different podcast. But I would say that in general, the pragmatic solution, which is the Abraham Accord, which talks about cooperation, building a better future, building high-rises instead of building tunnels under the ground, that approach is the one that eventually will prevail. Right now, unfortunately, all the attention is on the misery caused by a war that we didn't start and we really don't want.
It's quite interesting because I've been to Israel twice during this war. And the first time I met a man called Mordechai Kedar. Have you heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about what he thought, at least before the war. He had an 8-state solution where major Palestinian clans would get their own emirates and self-control, or self-control, is that what you call it? Well, they will be able to decide themselves for most of the things, but enveloped by an Israeli security apparatus. Is that where we're heading now? Where you just tell the Palestinians, either you go the Gaza way or you go the Dubai way?
I wish they would go the Dubai way or the Singapore way or any way that talks more about economic prosperity than misery. The problem, Aaron, is you talk to me about development because obviously the people, the Palestinians that were mentioned are business people. You can talk to me about national interest, which is also something that I can understand. I can understand the base and the move for the Palestinian national movement. I can understand it. This is the base of the idea for two-state solution. The problem is that you're speaking to fanatics who are not interested It's not about the national state, and it's not about the economy. It's about jihad.
Yes.
And when it's about jihad, there is not going to be a solution. The solution is to completely eradicate these crazy.
Well, that was Hamas' goals, wasn't it? To
absolutely
disturb the normalization process between Saudi and Israel.
Yeah, and also, Israel is accused of war crimes. Israel is accused of conducting genocide. The genocidal inspirations come from Hamas, and this is proven in their charter.
Yes,
and it's proven in what they've done on October 7th. So this is quite clear. To answer your question, I wish we could speak to more Palestinians, to more partners in the region that are interested in something which is pragmatic and a solution that is sustainable. But when you speak to people who are out there to destroy you, and they say it, they say that October 7th was against occupation. What occupation? There was no occupation in Gaza. And if you talk about the occupation of 67 or 48, this is what they're talking about. They do not. They want Palestine from the river to the sea.
Yes,
and that's very clear also in demonstrations that you see in places around the world.
When I say, because I argue quite a lot on the Twitters with anti-Israelis, to be very nice to them. And when they say, Israel has occupied Gaza, and I said, well, they left in 2005. And then they say, well, yeah, but they besieged Gaza and made it a death camp. And now they call it a death camp because they have nowhere to escalate to.
Yeah, the usual accusations.
Yeah.
Instead of asking themselves why they didn't turn that situation into a possibility of a prosperous Gaza, and why they didn't use the Qatari money for what it should have been for, like welfare and development. But instead they use, we protect our civilians. We invest in an Iron Dome. They use their civilians as propaganda tool, because the more civilians are killed, which is very unfortunate, they can show, look what Israel is doing to us.
Our foreign minister here in this country, Maria Malmer Stenegard, and Keir Starmer, the new Canadian one, and Macron have all said that you must not annex Gaza. That is a red line for them.
We have no plans of annexing Gaza. We left Gaza in 2005 in order not to return. The goals of the war have not been changed. And the goals are, as we've mentioned, the goals are to release the hostages. The goals are to demilitarize the Gaza Strip from Hamas's control. These are the goals. We're putting pressure on Hamas. That's the reason for the latest offensive. We're putting pressure on Hamas. And unfortunately, what's happening with many of our friends in the European Union and the international community, they're putting pressure on Israel. You have to decide. Are you on Israel's side or Hamas's side? Because the sanctions, pressure on Israel, stepping up the rhetoric is giving a prize to Hamas, and I don't think that's something that anyone wants.
Yeah, but you're making them look bad.
Making Hamas look bad?
No, you're making Western leaders look bad. Because you're protecting your population from Islamic extremism, and they are not.
That is I would say that is their internal. That is their internal affair, what they are doing or not. What we are saying is that Israel is a democracy that is facing a very, very difficult situation where we have to fight terrorists, where we have to fight jihadists, and we have to fight it as if it's as if our arm is one arm is tied up, because we're a democracy and we have to play the rules according to international law.
Yes,
so it complicates things.
Yes, but what I'm saying is you are doing all this, but they are not doing all that. So you're making them look bad. That puts them in a difficult situation. Because I understand that you're fighting for your lives, your physical lives, and all you care about. But they are made to look bad. Can't you sympathize with them?
My job is to get sympathy to Israel. I cannot talk about how others look or don't look, and again, what their internal issues are. So my job is to get sympathy and support for Israel, which I have to say, the war has been going on for more than a year and a half. We did get support from the international community. You still have the Swedish government saying that Israel has the right to defend itself, that the hostages must be released. Our question is, like, if you say that, then you must help us by putting pressure on Hamas. Another issue that we argue with the international community is one of humanitarian aid, which we allow in. But we have to remember what the international humanitarian law is all about. We, under the law, do not have to give supplies to our enemy. The Gaza Strip, unfortunately, is ruled by Hamas. All the aid that goes in is taken over by Hamas. It means that you are sending in aid which is exploited, which is hijacked, which is stolen and sold by Hamas. So this is something, according to international law, we do not have to do. We do not have to give our enemy an advantage. We do have a responsibility under international humanitarian law to monitor the situation of the civilians, and we do that. And when we see that some goods and some supplies are depleted, like, for example, flour or baby supplies, we let them in. And this is what we've been doing with hundreds of trucks that have been going in since the last week. And by the way, at least 10% of them, if not more, according to our information, is being taken over by Hamas.
Anyway.
Even
though they are protected by Israeli military and they're shipped in by American contractors.
So that's what we're trying to set up, which is extremely difficult. We're trying to set up an alternative mechanism. Because unfortunately, as you've seen with the case of UNRWA, and unfortunately the United Nations mechanism has been overtaken by Hamas. It plays to Hamas's advantage. So you have to come up with an alternative solution. And this is what we have set up, this Gaza humanitarian fund with the Americans. And the idea, just as the Americans fed Iraq, you have to come up with a different mechanism that doesn't go through Hamas. It's difficult, but the whole idea is we want the aid to go where it's needed and not to feed the Hamas terrorists.
Yes, which brings us back to Johan von Schreeb, who's been doing the rounds in Swedish media telling that all this is just a smokescreen. There's no food being distributed because, first of all, this is just the Israeli military and they don't have the competence to distribute food.
These are very serious accusations. And I don't think that he sees the picture as a whole. I mean, he's talking about situations in hospitals. He doesn't remind the people who are listening to him or reading him that these hospitals were used by Hamas. They were used in the beginning as their terror base. So he doesn't see the picture as a whole. He talks about a specific situation where we're saying, first of all, put the pressure on Hamas if you want this to end. Hamas is the one who brought the misery to its people. The Hamas militants, you could see that in the propaganda videos that they had out when the hostages were released. Did anyone look hungry there? The only people who looked starved were the Israeli hostages coming out of the tunnels. So I think Hamas is very well fed. If there is suffering among the population, there might be cases. This is war. You are lucky in Sweden not to have experienced war for more than 200 years. And we're dealing with these specific accusations by letting aid go in. So it's very easy to come with certain accusations. And as you said, making comparisons that are completely out of place. Completely out of place. If there is any misery caused to any Palestinian or Israeli, this is because of Hamas. We do not do any of this deliberately. You cannot make it sound as if, yes, we take joy in starving children. These are blood labels.
When Europeans and other Western leaders, our own government, for instance, say that they want to stop you from this final offensive in Gaza, do you think they want Hamas to continue ruling Gaza?
I think what everyone wants is quiet. We want. You have your own problems with Russia, Ukraine, and other issues. I think everyone wants this war to end and just have a little bit of quiet and no hard news coming out of the Middle East. We also want that.
Yes,
we also want that.
But wars usually end when one side decisively wins.
Well, militarily, Hamas has taken many, many blows, and just recently, it hasn't been not been confirmed yet, but there's a big chance that Muhammad Sinwar, who is the brother of Yahya Sinwar, is no longer with us. They have taken in many blows. The problem is that every time you let aid in, they get stronger. I understand that the world wants this all over. President Trump does. The European leaders, we want the war over too. Everyone wants, look at the Israeli, every possible poll. Everyone says they want the hostages back and the war to end. But we also don't want more of the same. It's a vicious circle. Now, what's going to happen? The war ends. Tons of aid, billions of dollars go back into Gaza to rebuild it. It's going to take years to rebuild it. Now, do you think they're going to invest in skyscrapers, in building an infrastructure that is for the welfare of their people, or they're going to invest in building more tunnels? We don't want this vicious circle to continue because it's going to be more of the same. We risk having another October 7th attack, and we risk this whole this whole vicious circle repeating itself. And that's definitely not something that anyone in the international community wants.
So let's talk about those other problems the Western leaders have that you mentioned in your previous response. What other problems?
Obviously, there is a war going on that is a wake-up call for everyone. Russia invaded Ukraine. We spoke about peace, how peaceful it is to live in Sweden. But all of a sudden, people wake up to a possibility that maybe, the geopolitical situation has also changed for you here. And I think this also is part of the fact that many Swedes, if they used to look at the Middle East as black and white, they perhaps understand that it's a bit more complex, and that there are possibilities of war not only for us but also for different regions, also for Europe. So I think there is an understanding that you perhaps have been a bit too naive, and now it's time to look at things differently.
Well, from a Swedish perspective, it's not only the possibility of a Russian invasion that keeps us up at night, but also being killed by child soldiers, shooting each other in the streets or blowing up apartment buildings. And some of these are controlled by Iran, who's also one of the sponsors of Hamas. So, when you mention other problems, there's a way to tie all this together.
When it comes to us, we saw how Iran is using these gangs as proxies. Several gangs, like competing gangs, both hired by Irani agents to attack us. So obviously, all of these things are related, and obviously there's a risk that is taken very seriously by your authorities. That some of these gangs are being abused by foreign powers, and it could affect the Jewish communities. It could affect Israeli embassies.
Yeah, but we also have, besides these gangs, we have a lot of Islamic extremism, not only in Sweden, but Belgium, France, England, plenty of places.
Well, these are internal issues that, as you mentioned, that are part of Europe's identity right now. It's something that you have to deal with.
Yes, obviously, but you have these issues as well. They are one and the same issue, and you are dealing with them, and Europe is not.
One could say, first of all, I have to say, Israel is we are the Jewish state, the one and only Jewish state in the world, but we also have, a 20 to 25% minority who is non-Jewish. So like 20% of the population of the country that I represent are Muslims. So I have to say that. And the Israeli You either call them Israeli Palestinians or Arabs with Israeli ID, Israeli nationality. They are full right citizens. You know, all of these accusations of apartheid, and these are full right. They vote for the Knesset. They have their own political parties. They're free to vote for whoever they want. If you go to hospitals in Israel or pharmacies, more than 20%. In the pharmacies, I think it's 40% of the staff are actually Muslim or non-Jews. So I have to put that in a bracket because I speak on behalf of the Jewish state, but I speak on behalf of a state that has different minorities that we're very proud of, and most of them are very good Israeli citizens. Now, when it comes to this battle against the radicals, the Islamists, the ones that call for the destruction of our societies. When I say our societies, I mean the Western societies, Israeli society, Swedish society, the Western society as a whole. Values of, democracy, pluralism, gender equality, LGBT rights, all of these things that are so dear to us. In that aspect, I'm afraid to say that Israel is standing in the forefront of a battle that if we don't win this battle, you could find it in your streets, and you might be finding it already, as you mentioned. So it is, I think people need to wake up and understand that what we are facing, you could face, and you have to show more understanding of what we are facing, the battle that we have. Also, the notion of like you keep everything quiet. Said wanted quiet. If you keep everything quiet, things will somehow come. No, some things you have to confront. We thought that if we give them, if we allow Qatari money to go in, it will actually be used wisely by Hamas and it will calm things down. It did exactly the opposite. So sometimes, I know we are in Sweden and you don't like confrontation and you like somehow things to sort out and calm down. Sometimes you need confrontation, and sometimes you need to say, this is not okay. And this is not part, if we want a better future for our children, this is not the way that we want our societies to be based on. So in a way, what we are facing, the war that we have, and is something that could be dramatic. I mean, our success could be dramatic for the entire Western world.
How so?
Well, if we manage to eradicate Hamas, if we win over the jihadist, radical Islamist aspirations of destroying Israel and taking over our society, this is something that could be a good sign for the rest of the world.
It could be replicated elsewhere.
Well, in different aspects, in different contexts. But what I am saying is that people who say, for example, that they are queers for Palestine, okay, I understand that you're sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. Can you ask yourself for a minute, what would happen if you were a queer person trying to walk in Gaza or even in Ramallah or most of the Arab world? How would you be treated? Do you remember that in those countries, homosexuals in some cases are executed? So it is also about values. And these values that are so dear to us, we have to remember who is the country that represents these values in the troubled area, which is called the Middle East.
Because those are the alternatives: a democratic free society or a theocratic fascistic one.
That's unfortunately for the Arab countries, the alternatives are not that great. We've seen that with the Arab Spring. It's either a theocratic, religious, jihadist, or just a corrupt regime that has nothing to do with democracy. So the options have not been that great in the Arab world.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming to Deconstructive Criticism, Ziv.
Thank you for this conversation.
It was a pleasure.
Detsamma.
Avsnittet gästades av Israels ambassadör Ziv Nevo Kulman. Du finner honom inte av säkerhetsskäl och hot mot hans liv. Vill du stödja min produktion som medicin mot den desinformation dina och mina skattepengar finansierar, går det bra att bli medlem på medlem.io/dk. Det är en prenumerationstjänst där du snart kommer kunna se även videoformatet av den här podden. Annars går det i vanlig ordning alltid bra att donera engångssummor på PayPal med Bitcoin eller med Swish på 0768 94 3737. 0768 94 3737. Om inte annat tycker jag att du i alla fall ska gå in på hemsidan aronflam.com/shop och köpa dig en t-shirt eller mugg. Både Tigerboken och Älskade Public Service är för tillfället slut som pappersböcker, men t-shirt och mugg finner du på aronflam.com/shop. Stort tack till dig som redan är medlem, och är du Patreon, byt gärna till medlem. Tack för att du lyssnar. Jag är Aron Flam. Håll i dig och håll ut.